Paul has decided to propose to the girl he loves. He blindfolds Iris, who's super excited to find out where he's taking her. When they arrive and she takes off the blindfold, she's completely mesmerized by the view from the tower, located at the top of a tall skyscraper called Sky View. Paul had reserved 2 spots through one of his friends, but once they get in the elevator, Iris starts freaking out because of the height. When they get to the restaurant, Paul tells the head waiter his name, but the waiter says there's no reservation under that name. The head waiter refuses to let them in. While the waiter is busy assisting another couple, Paul and Iris sneak off to check out the view. But Iris is still shaken by the height and heads to the restroom. In the restroom, another woman notices that Iris isn't feeling well and realizes she's pregnant. She asks if Iris is okay. Iris admits she hasn't told her boyfriend yet. She pulls herself together and returns with Paul to the highest point of the tower to see the view. Paul gets down on one knee and proposes. Before saying yes, Iris tells him they're going to have a baby. Paul is over the moon. They head back inside to celebrate. Meanwhile, a boy wants to throw a coin off the edge of the tower. A security guard warns him that it could kill someone. The boy says okay, but as soon as the guard walks away, he throws the coin anyway. The coin lands right inside the building's air ducts and jams one of the fans. While everyone's partying and dancing on the glass dance floor, disaster is brewing beneath their feet. The glass starts to crack, and the cracks are spreading. But that's not all. Several bolts on one of the tower's main columns start to loosen. The same coin that jammed the fan gets launched with high pressure into a gas pipe, causing a leak. Just as everyone's dancing and having a great time, Iris senses something's off. A moment later, the glass floor gives way and people start falling. Paul grabs onto a shard of glass, but it shatters too, and he plummets. Iris screams, and guests run toward the elevator in a panic. One of the guests runs into the chef holding a frying pan. The woman catches fire and runs past the gas leak, setting the entire restaurant ablaze. The others try to escape via the emergency staircase, but the tower wall collapses and everyone falls. The only survivor is the little boy. The only way out now is the elevator. There are so many people that Iris can't get in. The elevator becomes too heavy, its engine fails, and it plummets at full speed. The remaining survivors desperately search for an exit. The walls crack, the restaurant splits in half and starts tilting downward. Everyone is thrown toward the windows. A piano that was sitting above them slides down the slope, crashes through the window, and everyone falls. The rest of the tower begins to collapse. Iris tries to save herself and a child. Her ring gets caught between 2 metal bars, but she can't hold their weight. They both fall. Immediately after this scene, we see Stephanie waking up in a panic, as if she just witnessed all of it herself.
Recap camp.
That night, the nightmare returns. Stephanie wakes up again. Her roommate asks her what she saw. Stephanie says it's always the same dream, and there's a woman in it named Iris, who happens to be her grandmother. The roommate suggests that after 3 months of having the same nightmare, maybe it's time to visit her grandma. Stephanie returns to her father's house. He's happy to see her. She asks her dad about her mom's old address book, but he says he threw out all that junk a while ago. Stephanie go to their uncle's house, hoping he might know where their grandmother is. Uncle Howard and his wife are happy to see her. Stephanie asks if they have any contact information for Iris. They say they haven't heard from her in years. But when Stephanie mentions the dreams and the name Sky View, their demeanor changes. She realizes they're hiding something. She insists they help, but Howard says Iris was a crazy woman, and seeing her might drive Stephanie mad too. When Howard leaves the room, his wife secretly tells Stephanie there are some things in the kitchen drawer that might help. Stephanie finds an address and follows the directions to a house near the woods. It looks like an abandoned fortress, surrounded by security cameras and fences. She rings the bell. The person who answers tells her to leave immediately. But when Stephanie says she's looking for Iris and that she's her granddaughter, she agreed to let her in on the condition that she empties her pockets. They sit and talk. Iris reveals that 50 years ago, the night she was at Skyview, she had a vision that everyone there was going to die. First, she grabbed the boy's coin. Then she rushed to the dance floor and warned everyone to move away from the glass. Everyone made it out just in time. The restaurant was shut down and later demolished. That night, Iris prevented the disaster. But later, death came back for the people who were supposed to die that night. Over the following years, each of them died in different ways. Iris has stayed in that house for the past 20 years to escape death. She's learned its patterns and documented everything in a notebook. She shows it to Stephanie. Stephanie, scared, wants to leave. Iris tells her to at least take the notebook. Iris knows that if she steps outside, death will come for her. Still, she hands the notebook to Stephanie and says, "All the ways to survive are in here." Iris tells her to step back and just watch.
Seeing is believing.
At that moment, death finally comes for Iris and kills her. Stephanie is in shock. At the funeral, as her mother Darlene arrives, Stephanie hasn't spoken to her mother in years, but his brother Charlie seems happy to see her. After the funeral, Stephanie begins reading the notebook Iris gave her. Meanwhile, Howard's family is in the backyard preparing for a party. Julia, Eric, and Bobby are Howard's children. Amidst the chaos, a glass falls and shatters. Tiny shards scatter into the ice. Silent and invisible, Darlene has come to the party, bringing cookies she baked herself. Charlie eats one and immediately realizes they contain peanuts. Darlene quickly apologizes. She forgot Bobby is allergic. It's time for a drink, and a piece of glass falls into one of the cups. Everyone pours drinks and toasts to family. Julia finds something in her glass and suddenly can't breathe. It's just a bug. Stephanie, meanwhile, is carefully reading a notebook. Something in it makes her realize the family is in danger right now. Bobby's jumping on the trampoline, unaware there's something sharp hidden underneath. Charlie and Howard also get on the trampoline, their combined weight stretching it dangerously. Darlene spots the object under the trampoline and quickly removes it. When Stephanie arrives in the yard, everything seems fine, but immediately after, the trampoline tears. Bobby falls. At that very moment, the glass with the shard inside drops. Howard walks towards Stephanie, only to step on a shard that pierces his foot. Suddenly, a garden claw falls onto the lawnmower and the machine turns on. The mower runs over Howard's face and kills him. The next day, Stephanie gathers the family and shows them Iris's notebook. She reveals the truth behind the deaths. Everyone who should have died in the Skyview accident survived because of Iris's interference. But death always reclaims what it's owed, sooner or later. Now, it's coming for their family and all the kids. It's already started with Howard. Next, it'll come for Eric, Julia, and Bobby. Then it'll be Darlene, Stephanie, and finally, Charlie. But no one believes Stephanie. They all think Howard's death was an accident and leave. Darlene says Iris had already told her all of this, and that's why she ran away from home. She begs Stephanie not to let their mother's words ruin her life. That night, Eric is alone in his shop. Stephanie keeps texting him, but he's annoyed and turns up the music. A statue falls off the speaker, hits a table, and shatters a glass. When Eric stands, his chair bumps into a shelf of flammable materials, spilling some on the floor. As he bends down to pick up the glass shards, the ceiling fan's chain catches on his nose, piercing. He struggles to free himself, knocks over a desk lamp. The flammable liquid catches fire. Eric tries to escape but fails and falls into the flames. The next morning, Charlie hears that a tattoo shop burned down last night. While on their way there, they find Eric alive. He says his leather jacket saved him, but Stephanie is more worried than relieved, because if Eric didn't die, then maybe death is now coming from a different direction. She tries to warn him he's still in danger, but Eric brushes her off. Stephanie points out how any moment now that handsaw might fall on the guy with the leaf blower. Leaves might fly into the kids' eyes, and their ball might hit Eric's face. There's even a garbage truck nearby. Stephanie desperately tries to keep Eric away from it. Julia goes for a walk, and everything Stephanie predicted suddenly happens, but to Julia. She gets caught in the garbage compactor and dies in front of everyone. Stephanie blames herself, but her aunt reveals a secret. Eric isn't Howard's biological child, so he was never meant to be a target, but Julia was. Now it's Bobby's turn. Stephanie explains that in Iris's notebook, she kept writing to someone named JB. Darlene remembers that name. It belonged to a nurse at a nearby hospital. They decide to find him. JB, whose real name is John, tells them he's been fighting death for years, but now he has cancer. He says the only way to break the cycle is for the person whose turn it is to die, and then be brought back to life. That's the only way to change fate. Stephanie and Darlene start figuring out how to pull this off, but then they realize Eric and Bobby have disappeared. Eric has a plan. Trigger Bobby's peanut allergy to make him die, then revive him at the hospital. But death moves faster. In the MRI room, Eric steps out to get a wheelchair. The machine turns on. When Eric returns, Bobby starts eating the peanuts. The allergic reaction kicks in fast. Eric tries to save him, but the MRI machine pulls all the metal toward itself. Eric's piercings are ripped from his body. The wheelchair slams into him, and he's pulled into the machine. Eric dies. Bobby barely manages to inject himself with the anti-allergy shot. But at that moment, the spring from the vending machine launches with force and hits him in the head, and Bobby dies too. Darlene decides to go to Iris's cabin, believing it's the safest place, and that as long as she stays alive, Stephanie and Charlie will be safe too. Stephanie and Charlie go with her. The entrance is completely sealed. Stephanie reverses the car and slams into the gate, breaking through it. As they try to get out of the car, Stephanie's seatbelt won't unbuckle. She senses something's off. Darlene gets out and heads toward the cabin. Right at that moment, a spark ignites the gas tank and the entire house explodes. The car flips into a small pond. Darlene rushes over and tries to lift a tree trunk that's fallen on Charlie. At the same time, Stephanie is drowning, her seatbelt still jammed. Charlie gets free, but a power pole collapses and lands directly on Darlene's head, killing her instantly. Hearing Stephanie's cries for help, Charlie runs to her. Charlie finds a knife, cuts the belt, and pulls her out. He begins CPR and keeps going until she finally starts breathing again. Charlie tells her, "You were dead, but I brought you back. The death cycle is broken now." A few days later, while everyone is attending prom, a doctor there tells them Stephanie was lucky to regain consciousness so quickly after the accident. Stephanie says she had actually died and Charlie saved her, but the doctor insists she was likely just unconscious and her heart had never stopped. They realize, if the doctor's right, the chain hasn't been broken. At that exact moment, a freight train derails and comes barreling toward them. Stephanie and Charlie start running, but a train car flies loose and slams into them, killing them both. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, you know what to do.